Day the 5th of June 2025, and coming to you live from the Middle East, right here in Israel. The question on a lot of people's minds increasingly is, will Israel preemptively strike Iran, before they have a nuclear bomb? And more importantly, before they even have material that they can use to make a nuclear bomb. Apparently, they have enough material now to make 9 or 10 bombs if they do just a few small steps. To be honest, I think they already have um, some kind of arsenal. It would be hard for me to believe, and I don't really believe, that after all of these years, right, we're talking several decades of working on it, despite all the setbacks they've had and everything, it's hard to believe they don't have some kind of arsenal. And that's why I really don't believe that they don't have an arsenal. They only have material to make. And yes, I know Israel technically probably has a lot of intelligence assets in Iran and whatever. And in theory, we would know, the world would know, or Israel at least would know, if they do have fissile material that they can, make into a bomb, or they already have various bombs at their disposal. Personally, I don't buy that. I think they already have material, but I could be wrong. It just seems extremely unlikely after all these years, and all this time that they haven't done that. But whatever. So the question is, will the U.S. greenlight an Israeli hit on Iran? And should they, if they do, should they do it, sooner rather than later? And kind of obviously from a strategy point of view, even though once it's already being talked about in the media, it kind of defeats it. But you want to get them by surprise. Well, there's no surprise because they obviously know it's probable, right, that would happen. B, you want to get them when their guard is down. Well, Israel did knock out a lot of Iran's air defenses, and at the moment, Iran does not have the same air defense capabilities that it had some months ago, prior to getting hit by the Israeli Air Force on a number of occasions. And C, you've got all this other disarray happening in the Iranian government because they lost all their proxies. The Houthis, yes, they still shoot at Israel, but even the Houthis have, backed away from fighting against the U.S., and now they just shoot stuff at Israel. Yes, they shoot stuff at Israel, and they don't shoot stuff at the U.S. because they're afraid of the ongoing response from the U.S. And what it would mean if they didn't stop shooting at the U.S. forces. Apparently, they're afraid of Trump. And, of course, the Syrians, lost their government, right? And now they have a new government there. And the former government was obviously very pro-Iranian. They were Iranian puppet regime. They were Iranian and Russian and China backed, but mostly Iranian and Russia, and between the two of them, Iranian more than anything. Iran was backing Bashar Assad more than anyone in terms of material resources for all the bad things he was doing. Russia was still backing him a lot, keeping him in power basically, with their ports and all that, and their bases in Syria. But it was basically an Iranian regime, right? An Iranian proxy regime. Hezbollah, same thing, a proxy army of the Iranian regime. They still exist, but they've been decapitated and largely, disemboweled. They're nowhere near as dangerous as they were a year ago. They're still quite dangerous, don't get me wrong. I'm not, we should not pretend like Hezbollah has no ability to do any damage. They absolutely do. They're still a dangerous, lethal force. But they're far less dangerous now than they were a year ago. Let's be very realistic, right? But again, that doesn't mean they don't have assets to make big problems. They absolutely do. They still have probably 20,000 rockets, and They still have tens of thousands of fighters, many of whom are quickly learning the command structure, and I'm sure their new commanders are quickly learning the ropes of how to run the organization. Many of whom have been in those positions for a long time, so they know roughly. They have roughly an idea, and they're learning what to do very quickly. So it's not like they're going to be, in this weakened state forever, right? That's why when the enemy is down, you either smite them until they are obliterated, or that's when you actually make peace. And since Hezbollah and Israel have not made peace, and they're not likely to make peace, Israel, in my observation, is missing an opportunity here to smite the enemy completely, right? Get rid of it. Because you can't just go 80, you can't put out a fire 90% and expect everything is going to be okay. You can't put out a fire 99% and expect everything's going to be okay. If you don't put out the fire 100%, you didn't put out the fire. Right? Putting out the fire 99% is not putting out the fire. It's containing it. You got 1% left, but if you let it spread, it will get bigger again. And that's something that Israel needs to do. They need to eliminate the Hamas, not just knock them down a little bit. You need to eliminate them, just like we need to eliminate Hamas. Meaning you need to get rid of them as a fighting force. They need to cease to exist operationally as a fighting force. That doesn't mean there's never going to be any people running around with Hamas in their hearts or Hezbollah in their hearts. I know that sounds crazy, but there's going to be people who are running around, pining for those days, those glory days of genocidal bloodlust dreams, right? That's these sick people, how they think, right? They want to kill Jews. Well, Israel needs to put an end to that, right? Otherwise, you're going to keep dealing with this problem forever until this enemy is gone, right? The enemies of the Nazis didn't let the Nazis just exist, 50% or 10% or 5%. No, the Allies took apart the Nazi regime. And yes, there were still people who had the Nazi ideology in their heart for many years later. But the country had been denazified, right? Brick by brick. The country literally took apart that old regime, destroyed it, left nothing of it, re-educated its people to not be that way, right? Rebuilt its entire government, rebuilt its entire economy, rebuilt its entire way of thinking about the military and being a defensive force rather than an offensive force, and changed their country completely. And the same thing can happen in this situation. So, will Iran, get hit by the U.S. or Israel? It's probably not going to be the U.S. that does it, but you never know. After all, they do have significant assets there, and the U.S. has been making the threat that if Iran does not come to some kind of a deal to stop producing nukes, that the U.S. would hit it. But that could just be Trump talking tough, and then he might just tell Israel, do whatever you want. But the thing is, even if they make a deal, right? A deal that solves nothing. Sorry, but a deal, unless the deal is, hey, we're Iran and we're going to blow up our nukes, like we're going to destroy all the facilities in front of you and you can monitor it, and it's going to be 100% gone. Unless that's the deal, and that's not going to be the deal. But unless that's the deal, there is no deal. It's just a temporary problem, a temporary fix, right? They're like, oh, we'll reduce production rates by a certain percentage for a certain period of time, or whatever BS they're going to say. No, you either get rid of your nuclear facilities that are capable of producing offensive material, right? You want to keep stuff for civil reasons, you want to have civil atomic energy, I get it, whatever. Arguably, they should have the right to do that, and if it's monitored by the IAEA and with full and free and unfettered access by said international monitors, then fine. But you want to have nuclear materials to actually make offensive weapons? No, that's not okay. And Israel should not accept that in any way, shape, or form. I sincerely hope they don't. But we'll see, because we know that politics makes strange bedfellows. And like I said, in my opinion, I think they already have something. So Israel has to be extremely careful, in my opinion, about what they do and what they take out, if they do at all. Or if we're just going to accept the reality that these crazy mullahs in Iran are going to have nukes, which is also a possibility that might happen. If that's the case, well, good luck to us all. Peace.